Hello, welcome to Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. In this series over the last year, I have been looking at individual Figueroa biographies. We are now on episode 115. If you're interested in finding out who we've done already, go to haverootswilltravel.com, my website, and I have a page there with the links and all that good stuff. I also have a Facebook group where you can see when I'm posting new content. That would be great. Also, would love for you to subscribe to this channel if this is something you'd like to do, and click on that notification alert so you get notified as soon as I post new content. All right, let's get started and get to know our Feijoa number 115. This Feijoa, her name was or is Claude Prat. Remember, we've talked about the fact, or I have, how sometimes a man will get a name like Marie and a girl will get a name like Claude. This is an example of that. And Claude Prat was actually a viewer request. So when I looked at my files, one of my oldest and dearest friends who I grew up with and was my high school best friend, if you will. She knows who she is. This is her great-great-grandmother. So with that, let's get started. So Claude was born in 1648 in a town called Troyes, France. Her parents were Jean Prat and Agnes Lejeune. Now, Troyes is a commune. Remember, commune means township of about, right now, 62,000 people, and it is the capital of the department of Aube in the Grand Est region of north central France. Now, I've circled on the left, you can see where in France the Grand Est is, so that is like really, really northwest, if you will. And then we have Aube, um, which is found really in the bottom half of that region. So that gives you an idea of where it is. And in fact, it's big enough that it's actually on that map. Troyes, you can see it right there. Now, it is situated within the Champagne wine region and is near to the Orient Forest Regional Natural Park, if that's something that you are interested in. Now, Troyes developed as early as the Roman era. Some of the notable events in its history included the Council of Troyes, which involved the rights of the Knights of the Templar, whose founder, Hughes de Payet, was born in Troyes. The Council of Troyes, the marriage of Henry V and Catherine of France took place here. In the Middle Ages, the Champagne fairs were held here. Sister Marguerite Bourgeois, who would play a huge role in Montreal, New France, was actually born here. And I posted a note about posted the symbol of the Knights of Templar because that was a big deal. They were, kind of not headquartered here, but this was the origin of it, if you will. The manufacture of textiles became a huge part of the Troyes economy from the 18th century on. And it's actually, just so you know, it's it's the European capital of factory outlets. I'm going. It's home to the headquarters of the famous brand Lacoste. Who knew? That's where it is. So Claude would embark on Le Jean-Baptiste de Dieppe on June 18th, 1665 is when she arrived. She was about 17 years of age. There's no dowry spoken of, so I suspect she was either of meager means, an orphan, or just didn't have one. So we will explore who she selected as a groom in a minute. So the groom she selected and who selected her, well, his name is Nicolas Girard. Now, I think it actually is probably Girard de Saint-Martin, probably, but that's how it is in the books. So I'm going to write it like that. He was born in 1639 in a place called Mellerat, France. His parents were Louis Girard and Michel David. The name Mellerat comes from the name honey, miel, mel in Latin, which was harvested from the large chestnut trees of the town during the Roman period. Can you imagine? During the 12th century, the Notre Dame de Mellerat church was built, classified as a historic monument in 1913. During the 14th and 15th century, it underwent many, many transformations. Mellerat is found in the New York arrondissement of the region of Deux-Sèvres. So you can see it's in Nouvelle-Aquitaine is the region, and then inside that is the county of Deux-Sèvres, and that is in New York. It's kind of close to there. Okay, and this is the church here in the bottom right, and then on the upper right is just kind of an aerial view of the town as it exists today. So how and when did they get together? So Nicolas was hired as an engagé on May 14, 1658. He sailed on the ship Le Taureau, the Taurus. He would typically sign a 3-year contract at about £75 a year and work until it was completed. At the end, he might return to France or be in a position to begin his new life with a land and or a job. So by November 17, 1665, a few months after she arrives, Claude arrives, she finds, and he finds, Nicolas finds her in Montreal, and they are married. And this is the church, this is the marriage record where they were married. So you can see that they were truly early pioneers of Montreal. They were established as of 1665 in Montreal. That's just amazing. If you descend from this, you really are Montreal pioneer stock. Let's talk a little bit about Montreal. This wonderful city that would become Montreal started off as Ville-Marie by the founder Paul de Chaumédy, Sœur de Maisonneuve, and was essentially a missionary center. You can see on the map here, I kind of tried to find like illustrations that show what it was. And this on the right here is really like old Montreal, what we visit, old Montreal. It looks like many of these buildings have existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. The colony would really start up by 1653, was almost dying, and he went to France. He got 100 people to come along and just say, okay, we're going to give it a shot. Marguerite Bourgeois was one of them, and she helped to found the Notre Dame Cathedral, the congregation, all of that. He also created a militia, which I'm sure, I haven't looked to be sure, but I'm pretty certain that Nicolas would have probably joined up in. It was to protect it, because until 1665, there were no soldiers, there was nobody. So Nicolas probably was among those who fought or were part of the local militia, the Montreal militia, if you will. Like I said, Montreal remains this amazing place where, people congregate to. At the beginning, you have to understand, and I want to make sure that you know, that Montreal was kind of like the laughing stock of Quebec. And so Three Rivers and Quebec City were, obviously well established, and thought, who would ever move to the boondocks of Montreal? Well, it turns out that the location right on the river and the island nature of it would prove to be the greatest part of its existence. Just like another island called New York, Montreal became the center of influence because of its location. But it took a while for it to really, grow into itself, so to speak. So here we have, they were there early enough to be part of the 1666 and 67 censuses. So Nicolas and Claude were there. There are no children because they had just been married, but they do have 7 arpents en valeur, about 5.5 acres of land. And then by 1681, we have Nicolas, who's 48, Claude, who is 30, so we have about an 18-year difference in ages, and their children, Elisabeth, 14, Antoinette, 12, Marianne, 9, Gabrielle, 7, Françoise, 3. They have 2 bêtes à cornes, which are 2 goats, and 12 arpents en valeur, so about 9 to 10 acres of land. Total, they would have 10 children. Antoine would die in infancy. Elisabeth would marry Jacques Dantel de Lamarche and had 2 children, both of whom died. Antoinette Catherine married Nicolas Jeté and had 5 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Marianne would marry Pierre Gertin and have 9 children, 8 of whom would make it to adulthood. Gabrielle would marry Catherine André Grave and have 4 children, 4 of whom, all of whom would make it to adulthood. He would then marry Geneviève Favreau and have 3 children, 2 of whom would make it to adulthood. He would then marry Suzanne Ménard and would have 11 children in total, all of whom made it. Just so you're keeping score, that is 17 children in all. Then we have Jean, who died in infancy, Françoise, who also passed away, Jeanne, Antoine, and Michel. So really and truly, they had, a lot of children, but only really about 4 of them made it and were able to produce the descendancy that is so very important as we're studying this. Claude would pass away on the 21st of August, 1712, at the age of 64. She and Claude would have been married just shy of 47 years at her death. We do not know about Nicolas' death, only that it occurred after her death, after Claude's death, but most probably in Contrecoeur, possibly in 1713 or 1716, 1717. This is because in Contrecoeur Church, where he would have been living with one of his sons, he was, there are no records. Those are the years that the records don't exist. So I think that he might be buried at Saint Trinity de Contrecoeur Cemetery. So I posted the picture. Also showed you where it might be. I realize now my little red circle is not in the right place. The square is where it should have been. And then, of course, Claude would have been buried at the Notre Dame Church in Montreal. Here are some resources I'd love to recommend. Number 1, La Société des Filles du Roi. It's a society that I am a member of, and I'm the membership chair. It has lots of good resources, and if you want to get one of those certificates and prove your descendancy, it's really not that expensive, so check it out. Then we have Quebec Genealogical E-Society, a newer addition to the resources. It's been around for 6 or 7 years. Love this site and love how it keeps growing. So it's got a lot of resources for you. We have Nos Origines, which is like a group think, if you will, free, and you just go on there and put the name of your ancestor, and it pops all kinds of info. And then we have Généalogie Québec, which is a paying website, well worth the price. It is for me, Ancestry.com for Quebecers. Number 5 is Migration, another free site, but I do donate to them through PayPal just because I want to support their cause. They really feature Filles du Roi and Carignan soldiers exclusively, so this is a really amazing, amazing website. And we have Facebook, a wonderful group called Filles du Roi Descendants that are very kind, and their generosity of spirit, no nastiness, just really, really nice people. So I would recommend all 6 of these. If you have any others you'd like me to highlight, please let me know. So with that, we end episode 115. Claude Prat would, live a nice, not terribly long life, but she certainly gave it her all. She was there in Montreal as one of the founding pioneers. In my mind, I mean, she's in the 1666 census of Montreal. I mean, that's pretty as early as you can get for a Filles du Roi. And she has, as of 1729, 87 descendants. Not too shabby, given the fact that, despite the fact they had 10 children, only really 4 of them produced or lived long enough to produce a descendancy line. So, and I'm sure my dear friend and the viewer are grateful for that. So with that, we thank her for her contribution, her sacrifices, and we bless her memory. I thank you, and I will see you on episode 116. Until then, au revoir.